Hello everybody, it's Kara from Wild Book Garden, and today I'm here with my spoiler-free review for An Unlikely Proposition by Rosalyn Eves. I received this copy in exchange for an honest review, and I will also put content warnings in the description box. And I also want to mention that I ended up reading the first book in this sort of companion series, An Improbable Season. This one was not an arc. I had already bought it myself, and I thought since I was going to be reading the second one, I might as well read the first one. And I'm glad I did because there are some sequential character and plot things. So before I get into the premise of this second book, I'm gonna just briefly sort of, I guess, give my recommendation for like reading the books in order or not. I would say that if you know you're interested in the first and the second book, like if you look at the two companion books and you want to read both of them, I would recommend reading an Improbable Season first, which is the one that was published first. But if you're not so sure that you're going to want to read the first one, then you can definitely dive into the second one and you won't be confused. You just will be spoiled for some character and plot things from the first book. And also because of the fact that these are sort of sequential companion books, there's a couple of like character or story things that I'm going to be a little bit vague about so that I don't spoil you for the first book. So, jumping into the premise, we are following Eleanor as one of our main points of view, and we're following another character who we know from the first book that I am not going to tell you about because, again, spoilers. And she ends up becoming a companion for Eleanor. And Eleanor is 17, but she's actually already widowed because she married an older man who was kind to her. They got along well and everything, even though it was, you know, an unusual kind of match in a way. But he ended up getting unexpectedly very sick and he died just a month after they were married. So Eleanor is in the unusual position of being a 17-year-old widow. And so she has this other young woman as her companion, and we see kind of their friendship developing throughout the book. And there are also two romantic plot lines that we are following. Eleanor's husband's nephew is trying to get his hands on her money because her husband left her essentially everything, with a couple of caveats. And in order to try and get him off her back, because he's really pressuring her to like marry again, she arranges a fake engagement. But unlike usually when that happens, her love interest is not her fake fiance. He's actually the love interest for somebody else, which I really like. I love the like fake dating or like marriage of convenience trope, but I actually really enjoyed this twist on it. And Eleanor actually finds herself becoming interested in somebody who she really like shouldn't be, at least like that's what society would think. So we follow these two women as they are trying to navigate these like complicated relationships. Eleanor is also trying to get her husband's last work published, so that ends up playing into like some of these things going on. And of course we have the threat of her husband's nephew, and what he is willing to do to get his hands on her money. And I really, really enjoyed this. I also should mention briefly that I really loved the first book as well, so you can hear more about that in an upcoming wrap-up for me. But focusing on this book for the review, I really liked this. I really, really enjoy the way that Rosalyn Eves writes, and I feel like she's one of those authors, like I've only read 2 books from her, but so far she feels like one of those authors where, you know, you have writers where it's like you just click with the way they tell stories, like something about the way they write or the kinds of stories they tell, the kind of character types they use or tropes, like it just sort of works for you extra. And that's how I'm feeling about Rosalyn Eves, because like I'll get into, there's a couple of like little things that I think we could have had more time on, or like I would have liked to see, you know, done a certain way. Like there's a couple of little things like that, but for the most part, even those things, I still had a really good time. It's kind of like what I say about Rosamund Hodge, where it's like she sells me on things that I normally would not buy. And that's kind of how I feel with this author so far as well. I also really loved the main characters, especially Eleanor. I think she was such an interesting, like sharp, prickly, but like really loyal and loving kind of person. And I think that her characterization, like the glimpses we get of her like backstory and like why she married this older man that she did, and like what her life has been like up to this point and why she is so afraid of having nothing again. Like I just think all of that was done so well. I really, really felt for Eleanor. And even when she made choices that are obviously going to hurt her and the people she cares about, you can understand why she makes them. And that's what I look for in characterization, is not like, does a character always do the right thing, but do I understand why they're doing it? And I think her development was really, really wonderful. And seeing her realize that she does have people who care about her, that she's not alone anymore, was really beautiful. I did also enjoy our other main character, Not quite as much as Eleanor, but I did like her. I thought she had some interesting growth as well. And I really enjoyed the relationships between all of these characters. Like, the female friendship in both of these books is so good. I love it so much. You guys know that's something that's very important to me. And I really, really loved seeing Eleanor develop this friendship. And also we see like other friendships that these characters have with other women, so that's great too. I think the family relationships are really interesting and really complex, except for there's one brother in this book who I found incredibly obnoxious. Like, I couldn't stand him, but I understand why he was important for the story. Like, I get his role, he just pissed me off. But he was well written in that way. Yeah, so I think that the family relationships are really interesting. And I was talking about how much I enjoy Rosalyn Eve's writing style, and I also think she's really, really good at dialogue. Like, I really loved seeing these characters interact with each other, the different kinds of relationships that they have. There's some great humor. I just think her characterization work through dialogue really works for me. I think she's really good at it. The only part of the writing that wasn't always like perfect for me is that one of our characters, like, we get excerpts of like poetry that they're writing, and there were a few of those that I like genuinely really enjoyed and I thought were really well done, and there were a few of them that I think were maybe not so good, but I think in story that kind of makes sense, because the whole point is that this character, like, they have like some good core elements and they're kind of working to improve their craft. So even though, like, yes, there were some that felt a little like clunky or cheesy, it kind of fits with the story actually. Oh, I also wanted to mention for character things that we have a supporting character who I believe is written, it's not said on page, but I believe they're meant to be demi-romantic. And I really like the way that that is talked about in a historical setting where they didn't have that kind of terminology. And then speaking of the historical fiction, I really thought that Rosalyn Eves did a great job of balancing the historical detail and making this feel like genuinely like lived in as a setting, while also making it very readable and very engaging for a modern audience. As far as the plot or overall story, you guys heard me say that I really enjoyed the way that the romantic tropes were used. There's like a couple in particular that are things I especially enjoy, and I thought those were really great. And I did think that the overall like plot and story and these different plot threads, I think they came together really well. Like, there was kind of a part at the end of the book where it felt a little, I don't know, it was a little neat, like it was a little over the top, and then also because of how quickly some things happened, it felt like there were things that were resolved maybe a little too quickly. But also this is a pretty short book. Like, it's actually just under 300 pages, which is substantially shorter than the first book. So I think considering how short it is, I feel like the plotting and the character and like basically all of the elements of the story were done really well. And that's also one of the things, like, I wish we had gotten even more romantic scenes with our two main couples, because I really love the ones we got, and I felt like we needed more. But with that being said, it's like what I was saying near the beginning of the review, that like I just really bought it, even though I would have liked to see more scenes with these characters because I enjoyed them, and I think that we could have benefited from even more sort of detail of like the middle part of the relationship. I still think their connection made sense even in the cases where it was a little quick. I just really enjoyed them together. And then also I really like the way that both these books like touch on different themes and different issues affecting people in the time in a way that has a very light touch. Like, it's definitely not like the main focus of the story, but I think it's done really well and really respectfully. Like, there's a lot about like women's place in society, and women pursuing their own art, their own work. There's also themes about like fear and like the idea of giving up security. Like, we see that with Eleanor a lot, and like I was saying, I think that her character arc especially was very good. We also see that there is this real respect from the story about different ways of being happy. Like, we especially see that in the first book, where it's like not everybody's happy ending is going to look the same, and that's okay, and you can still love and support someone even if their happiness isn't yours. So yeah, I thought that was really good. As you can see, I really enjoyed this book. I ended up giving it Unlikely Proposition 4.5 stars. I really hope that Rosalyn Eves continues with the series. I don't know if she's planning to do more companion books, but if she does, I'm definitely going to snap them up because I'm really enjoying her books so far. So yeah, 4.5 stars. Let me know if you are interested in this book or this series actually, and let me know if you've read it, what your thoughts are. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!